Well, good evening, residents and businesses of the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District. Welcome to the district's Facebook Live event, which is going to be streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and on Periscope. As we historically have done, we are going to delay a little bit to ensure that as many people that we can get onto the event. If you can do what I'm doing, if you can go onto your own device through Periscope, YouTube, and or Facebook, it provides the opportunity, and to please share it. Share it with our communities. I really do believe that this information is very valuable to the residents of our jurisdiction. And we will be providing a question and answer session at the end of this to address any questions that are not specific to the topic of which we'll be going over here tonight. So again, if you are a resident of Brentwood, Oakley, Knightson, Bethel Island, Discovery Bay, Marsh Creek, Morgan Territory, and or Byron, my name is Brian Helmick. I'm your fire chief, and this is what we've been doing almost weekly, a Facebook Live event where we focus on a very specific topic, and then we open it up to questions related to the topic and or anything related to the fire district. So I want to thank you for being here, and I want to appreciate all those that are attending, as I know that we compete for everyone's time. And I also know that there's a lot of misinformation out on the fire district, and we're trying to get you as much information as we can to make sure that our community is educated and informed about everything related to the fire district. The process here tonight is going to be like those we've done in the past couple weeks related to these videos. Is I will do this brief introduction. I'll introduce the video that we're going to do. We will run an approximate 3-minute video on a specific topic. And tonight we're going to be talking about the thing about taxes. Everybody loves taxes. It's a hot topic. I understand that, and I very intentionally wanted to talk about it, as I think that it's important that we be educated, informed, and we have these conversations related to taxes and understand the district's positioning around it and why they're so important to the district and why we rely on them so essentially. And so this is an opportunity to educate and inform and to understand. So tonight, that will be the 3-minute video. Once we do the video, I will provide some supporting information that is not within the video in regards to taxes, why the district researches them, why we lean upon them, why we rely upon them, and provide you access to information so you can become educated and informed in your own regard to why we as fire districts, special districts, lean upon the tax concept. And then we'll go into a question and answer session, which provides you the opportunity for me to further verify what it is that I'm talking about or clarify in regards to the tax topics that we've had. And it also provides you with the opportunity to ask any questions just in regards to the district that you may have. If you're new to this conversation about the fire district, there may be a lot here. Understand all of these videos are recorded and they are archived on the district's website. When you go on the district's website, it says it's fire season. You click on that link, it will take you to previous events. We've been doing a series of town hall meetings. We've been doing a series of these Facebook Live that goes out on Periscope and YouTube. And what it does is it provides very specific criteria on other topics. This is the 5th, well, what was 6 videos, and we've actually added a 7th. And the first video we did was an update on the COVID situation and the We Are Listening initiative that we did in the past. And the second video was around firefighter compensation and benefits. The 4th one the second one was response times. The 3rd one was firefighter compensation and benefits. The 4th one was the criteria required to fix our challenges or problems. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the thing about taxes. Next week, we're going to get into achieving a viable and sustainable solution. And the 7th video, which is brand new that we didn't have even last week, is a day in the life of an East Contra Costa Fire Protection District firefighter. I think it's really important people know who we are and what our members are impacted with. So again, these are all archived. We've done many town hall meetings. We have many other meetings coming up. There's future opportunities. So if you're watching this in a recorded manner and it isn't live, you can attend a future event. We're going to start scrolling some of those events on the bottom of the screen. We have some town hall meetings of which you're available to come participate in. And we also have additional Facebook Live events that you can participate in, as I just previously stated. And we'll scroll these here. They'll be in the comment section that you can link to. It's on the district's website. You can go back and look at this information, so it's available there for you. So I think that it's really also important to know that, listen, we're not going to be able to, this is scheduled for about an hour, and we want to address all the questions that you have. Because this mechanism is being broadcasted out on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope, we can also receive information back from those 3 different sources. So right now, if you have any questions related to what I'm discussing and or not related to what I'm talking about, district-specific questions, start populating them now. One thing we've learned over the last couple of weeks that I want to caution you against is that if you can try, we don't modify. When someone gives us a post and the question pops up to me later, we present them, they present them in the background to me as they're submitted. But if they get too long-winded, we have found that if you get it over 25 words, 30 words, is that it will cut off. And so your statement may not be complete. And so I may not have the full understanding of your question. So if you notice you post a question and it cuts it off the end with a ... it's because it was a little too long. So what I'm asking is put it in a very clear or a 2-piece type question, because it's very important I understand your question, because I do want to do my best to address it. And also in regards to addressing your questions, I think that we try very hard to. I will tell you there are times of which if I don't have the accurate, correct information, that I will ask for you to contact me offline. And you will, and we'll post it up here right now, my email address and my phone number. I want you all to know, if you live in our jurisdiction, that I am your fire chief. And I want to be accessible to you. My staff is accessible to you. We have a very dynamic environment. It's a very complex system. Our history is complex, and we're being very progressive in trying to address it. So if I speak here tonight and I speak in a manner of which that I use fire-specific terminology and I don't bring it down to a level, and I just want to make sure that everyone understands, please call me. Send me an email. I want to articulate our situation very accurately to you, and I want to make sure you have access to accurate information. So again, thank you. Again, please share this event as we get started, and start populating your questions if you have them. This is our 5th video of the 7. Tonight, we are very much going to be focusing on the thing about taxes. So as we continue to move forward on this, we're going to start the video here in a brief moment. And I want to make sure that I've shared this on my mediums as well. And it looks like I have. And so here we go. So please enjoy this video. I hope you enjoy this video. And let's talk about taxes.
What folks need to know is that we are governed underneath law, we're governed underneath statute. And those laws and statutes very clearly say that the way that we increase service levels is through assessments and taxes. So the reason we utilize taxes is 96% and 97% of all of our funding is through taxes and assessments. That is the means. The revenues that we have are not enough. The revenues that we have were established in the 70s. In the 70s, it was made very clear through Proposition 13 that we were allocated revenues at the rate of which was needed at the time when Proposition 13 went into place. In the 70s, we were purely volunteer. I'm heavily invested into this as a citizen and also as the fire chief. So for that reason, for you as a citizen, it is important that you lean upon me, that you call upon me. My cell phone's on the website, my email address on the website, and I will meet with you. So it is important for you to be informed. It is important for you to know where to get true relevant answers.
All right, welcome back. So look, that's a little bit of a teaser to get the conversation started here tonight. And we are listening initiative for many months through the end of last year to the beginning of this year, trying to collect a lot of questions. And I do want to let you know very clearly as the fire chief that, we within the community of East Contra Costa, we're very sensitive to new taxes. I am a resident of Brentwood, so I feel what many of you feel and see what many of you see, and I understand the optics. One thing I want to leave here tonight is to educate and inform and provide you access to information, even double check my math and the understanding of why we as a fire district so heavily have to lean upon taxes to be able to provide sustainable, guaranteed money to be able, in the right amount, to be able to increase service levels over time. I also want to be able to explain why we are underfunded and why we don't have the right amount of appropriate taxes at this time. So what I want to do is I want to begin in the beginning of this whole thing, kind of the genesis of what brought us here in the first place. Is many of you, I believe you've been monitoring us, you understand Proposition 13, and those of you that don't, that's okay. It is a complex topic. I have spent the first year of my career as fire chief trying to understand it myself. And I'm still learning about it today. So it is somewhat complex, but this is what I know. Is, I was challenged when I came in as the fire chief that every home, when someone has a home, they pay a certain percentage of their home on taxes. There's a 1%. Everyone pays 1% on their home, and that goes to taxes. And those taxes is called ad valorem. And that 1% is divided up. It's divided up into kind of like a pie. It's divided up into a pie, and everybody gets different sections of that pie. And the people that receive different sections of that pie, a certain percentage of that pie is everyone that provides services to you wherever you live. And wherever you live geographically, it is called a tax rate area, a TRA. That's what we call it, as a TRA, a tax rate area. And every tax rate area is kind of divided up a little bit differently. A certain percentage goes to the school, a certain percentage to the fire district, a certain percentage may go to the county if you live in unincorporated areas. Some may go to the city if you live in the city, and some may go to the county if you live in the city because you receive city services. Bottom line is, everyone throughout the jurisdiction pays that 1%. And that 1% is divided up accordingly by the services that they received. Now, that pie and the way it was divided up was done in 1978, and it was done through a proposition called Proposition 13. When Proposition 13 was put into place, it was done very strategically. The authors of it, and once it was approved, the state worked with the local entities, and they traveled around. They worked with industry leaders, fire chiefs, county, cities, and otherwise. And they went around and said, listen, we have 100% pie here. What is it that you need today to be able to provide the service levels that you have today in 1978? And all of the tax rate areas throughout our jurisdiction that were either developed on or undeveloped on, they went around, they worked with the jurisdictions providing fire protection at that time, or any service at the time, and they allocated that pie to be able to adequately provide services back in 78. If we all could go on a road trip, if we can go back in time and find a time machine and go on a road trip, and if I were to meet you, as the example I give, I meet you in Pleasant Hill, and we had the opportunity to drive to Moraga, drive to San Ramon, drive to Brentwood, Oakley, Knightson, Byron, Bethel Island, Marsh Creek, Morgan Territory. The population base and the services being provided in the 70s don't have the demands they do today. And right now, of that pie, we receive 8% on average of it, and there's 200 plus tax rate areas in our jurisdiction. But on average, we get 8%. There are some communities like Bethel Island that pay closer to 18.5%. You have out in Discovery Bay 13.5%. They also have another component which is added within the 1% in Discovery Bay that can bring that rate up. Oakley is between 4 to 5. Brentwood is between 5 to 6. Bottom line is there's a wide variety of the tax rate areas of what percentage goes to fire, but the bottom line is in our jurisdiction on average, 1% brings in only 8% of that 100%. And why that's important is because we were funded in the 70s for a volunteer organization to provide rural fire protection. We are a suburban, urban type communities. We are growing. We have grown rapidly, and the revenue has not come into the district to be able to change our service model from a rural model into a suburban model or urban model. And this is the issue. The rate of which we got in the 70s wasn't wrong. It was right at the time. What was wrong is that from 1978 to current, as development came into the district and as it continued to grow, the fire district, agency leaders, cities, counties, everyone, we work together to address development is we, the district's ultimately responsible. We did not place the appropriate assessments, taxes, on new development. So starting from 1978 to current, we did not place an assessment on all new properties, all new units incrementally to change our service model from a rural to a suburban urban model within our communities. And that is what has created the existing deficit that we have. The allocation amount isn't wrong, it is low, because it was set to do what it was intended to do, is provide volunteer, rural, non-24/7, 365 operations and services. All the other communities I referenced you to, if we did that road trip back in the 70s and checking out Moraga into San Ramon and all these other agencies, they were career fire departments, 24/7 operations, many of which were starting paramedic programs, and they were doing all risk activities. And we were purely volunteer all the way until 2002. So we had combination in East Diablo, but primarily everywhere else was volunteer in 2002. So that is very important to understand. That's how our revenue is set up. And the district, moving the conversation forward, is we are funded. We are funded. This pie chart, actually, if you go onto the district's website, or actually not the district's website, if you go and look at any of the town hall meetings, the Bethel Island town hall meeting, or even, I believe last night, we did it was last night, the Discovery Bay town hall meeting. I talk about tax rate areas, and I talk about the district's funding. 96% of our funding comes in through assessments and taxes, through that percentage that comes in on taxes, and any additional revenue that needs to come to the fire district. We are very restricted on legally how we're able to ask for additional revenue. So we, as the fire district, moving the conversation ahead, is that we are governed and we were established under what is called the Fire Protection District Law of 1987. And that really is the framework, is the law and the statute of which we operate under. And we as the fire district spent a lot of time as we went through to develop our 2019 to 2023 strategic plan. We wanted to identify not only where we were, what our objectives are from 2019 to 2023. This is available on the district's website, on the homepage, on the strategic planning page, to very much identify what we wanted to do, what we could do with our existing revenues, where our deficits were, and what our objectives were for the next 5 years. This was a community inclusive process that was done, but that was only a piece of it. We also have what is called the implementation action plan that identifies what we can do with our existing revenues, where our deficits are, if we got additional revenue, how it would be used, and how long it would take to implement. It is very measurable, so not only the fire board, but even more so staff can be held accountable. So you as the community understand, if you were to invest into us, we already have a plan in place. We have a revenue issue, but we all have a plan if revenue to come to the district. And the third part of it, from the strategic plan to the implementation action plan, getting to my point, is what is called as a revenue options guide. The reason we developed this revenue options guide, which is available on the district's website, when you go to the strategic planning page, you'll find not only the strategic plan, the implementation plan, but also the revenue options guide. This is a key point. This is a quick reference guide for the fire board and for the staff to understand the things that we can do as a fire district legally underneath statute and law. The things that are green, we can do by ourselves. The things that are yellow, it takes working in cooperation with other entities, sometimes land use agencies or whatever it may be. As you continue going through, there are many areas, as you'll find, that are red. And it's going to take a change of a law or statute to be able to make it happen. It's a comprehensive document. It's available on our website, but it is a tool. And what you're going to find is that when it comes down to providing regulatory fees, assessments, and taxes, the statutes and the laws have provided those as the opportunities for our funding. And that is what the expectation, the intent was that fire districts would do. So going back to the beginning, is our allocation amounts may have been low, but the fire district was intended to, as growth came in, place assessments according to laws and statutes that we can do as a district, independent of any other entity, on all new development. I'm very happy to report to you that the lack of due diligence, per se, the lack of not addressing growth effectively historically from 1978 to 2019. In 2017, we were working to stop the bleeding. We're on the implementation phase right now. With all new growth, the district today, we have 3 stations, 9 firefighters on. We should have no less than 6 stations today with 18 firefighters on, which means we have a 3-station deficit. We know over the next 20 years by watching and looking at the Brentwood, Oakley, and the county's general plans that we'll need a total of 9 stations within our jurisdiction. We have stopped the bleeding, and we are working on implementing what is called impact fees and CFDs, assessments and fees. Assessments and fees on all new development to not only build 3 future stations, but also have and participate in a community facilities district that will place an assessment on all new property over the next 20 years. So incrementally, as development comes in, assessments will be placed, revenue will come into the district, and service levels can increase. If that methodology wasn't placed in 1978 to date, we would not be here talking about this. You'd have a first-class organization, and understand you have the buildings of a first-class organization, but you don't have the bench. You do not have the depth. You do not have the resources. You got the right people, but we're missing the revenue. We got the plan, but we're missing the revenue. So the point I'm trying to make is the methodology that we placed into the future, it's solid, and we will address growth effectively. The reality is that if we did what we needed to do, if you bought a home from 1978 to now 2020, me being one of those people, and I don't have an assessment on my property, and I added to the problem of growth, congestion, and impact in our organization, that is our deficit. And that is the challenge we have here today. And so we are trying to correct something that was not done historically, that created an existing deficit. And we are not trying to go back, but we're trying to stop that bleeding and move forward. And we've done it with future growth, but the existing service level deficits provided by those that came to the community that are not paying above the rural fire protection, and they're not investing to the urban or suburban fire protection service model. We don't have funding to do it. That's the problem. And this is the challenge I have, and we're going to work towards concluding so we get to a Q&A. It's great that the fire board gets applauded for stopping the bleeding. We're implementing what's called the impact fees, like I said, to build stations and buy apparatus, and we're working on implementing the community facility district, hopefully in the next 2 months here. And once that's done, future growth is resolved. We get commended on well done. But we get challenged with applying the same methodology to past residents that have created the same service level challenges. And that same methodology isn't applied onto their properties. And I understand. I understand the optics. Nobody wants new taxes. But I also know that nobody appreciates the existing service levels within our district. The reason we lean upon taxes and assessments, again, is because the fire protection law and statutes and the means to be able to do it, it is the most secure, guaranteed way to do it that is sustainable. When sustainable means that it's money that can come into the district on a reoccurring basis that will not end. And so I don't anticipate everything I've said today makes it all very clear entirely, as it is complex, but I do want you to know everything I've shared with you is available on the district's website. My cell phone number is available to you, and I want to continue this conversation with you. The fire board is also exploring alternatives in lieu of taxes, and it is important right now. There's a misconception that the fire district has a measure that's on the ballot in November, and that's false. That is not true. There's no ask. We are educating and informing to the realities of our situation, our current challenges, everything we're exploring, and making sure people understand how we operate, how we're governed, who we are not, things we've explored, and what we're going to do. In November, as we could work towards feasibility on many, many different things, and we watch to see how other external propositions or measures that are happening on the impacted district, the district may entertain and explore doing some sort of an assessment if that is something the board chooses and or needs to do if alternatives do not produce. Historically, alternatives have not produced. But that is why it's so important for all of you to be engaged, to watch, to understand, have accurate, relevant, and timely information. And that's what I'm trying to get to you. So I really thank you for sharing this information. And if you have, again, any questions, we'll start addressing them now. But a lot of that information is, again, on the district website. So I open up questions. So what is the average response time to calls? That is a very good question. So what I'm not going to do, in respect to everyone that's here, but I want to point you to, and I'm sorry I missed your name, but look, if you go to the district's website again, which will pop up the link, and on the very top tab, it says About the Fire District. There's going to be a drop down from Transparency and Finance to East Contra Costa Fire Protection District History, Board of Directors, Organizational Chart, Executive Staff, Board Policies, Ordinance, and past meeting agendas, and then monthly operational reports. That's where you're going to want to go. When you go into the monthly operational reports, you will see that our operations chief, Battalion Chief Ross McCumber, every single month, he provides a report to the fire board. It's a report out of the fire chief of the executive staff. And he will every month do the report, and the report is placed on the website, and you go back and you can look. The calls for service, it will give you not only a calls for service for the month, but it will also reflect it to the previous year. It will tell you how many times an engine rolled out. Response times are different than engines rolling out. We run about 7,700 calls a year, but it takes many pieces of equipment, sometimes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to mitigate one call. So we have about 9,500 rollouts where we have 7,700 calls. And you'll see by engine company where they roll out, the percentage of the total, and how many times they rolled out the previous year. We also, within that same report, look at the response times by area. Brentwood West, Brentwood East, Discovery Bay, Byron, Oakley, Knights and Bethel Island, Marsh Creek, Morgan Territory, and we highlight and look at the automatic aid. We have an aid agreement with Contra Costa County Fire, and you can see how imbalanced it is in regards to them providing resources to us. It's about 2 to 3 to 1 historically. And it also gives you our operational positions and how many people we have budgeted within the organization, what's funded and unfunded. That's all in the operational report. But to address your question, the response times on average depend upon the service area. And so you're going to have to look and see in Brentwood West, it's 8 minutes and 32 seconds. Brentwood East is 9 minutes and 31 seconds. Discovery Bay is 11 minutes and 8 seconds. Oakley, 7 minutes and 41 seconds. Knightson is about 10 minutes and 55 seconds. Bethel Island is 15 minutes and 31 seconds. Marsh Creek, Morgan Territory is 11 minutes and 54 seconds. So you can, and that was in July. And so you can look and see what those look like. And myself or Chief McCumber are available to you if you have any more questions. Great question. Since Prop 13 and 78, additional tax and supplements is always recommended. Is that an industry standard? Any data on how surrounding cities in and out of county manage deficits? Keep that up. Great question, Mr. Bolton. And for fire protection special districts, so this is also a very important thing that you need to look at. There's 2 types of districts. You've probably heard the phrase fire department and fire district. They are not the same. Fire departments are city departments. For example, Pinole Fire Department, Albany Fire Department, and they operate as part of the city. A district is different than a city. A fire district has an elected board. We have an elected board of 5. We have our own budget, our own revenues, and we get a portion of that 1% that funds the district for fire, rescue, and EMS services within that service area. We are the primary responsible agency that provides those services to our jurisdiction. Special districts are governed underneath the 1987 Fire Protection Law and Standard, and taxes and assessments are the main means to be able to address impacts of future growth and or to increase additional service levels. And so that is not unique to us, but what is unique to us is special districts. Special districts are fire protection districts that provide fire protection to multiple land use agencies. We have 3. East Contra Costa Fire, the dirt we cover is 250 square miles, 128,000 residents. That swells to 155 when you add the businesses within our jurisdiction. The 3 land use agencies that we provide fire protection to is the city of Oakley, which has between 40 to 50,000 people. The city of Brentwood, 60, 65 plus thousand people, and the unincorporated areas of Contra Costa County. So the 3 land use agencies we serve, the cities of Oakley, Brentwood, and unincorporated areas of Contra Costa County, we are responsible for not only the funding, but fire protection for fire and EMS and rescue. That is what we do. And so fire districts and cities are different. Cities have their budgets set up differently. Like, for example, the city of Brentwood has a police department. They are charged and responsible for police. They are not with fire because we exist. If we did not exist, the cities individually and the county would, the cities would have to provide fire protection. And so there's also a legal analysis, which may be very good in that regard. If you go to the district's website, you go on the strategic planning page again, you go to, you scroll down to what says white papers, and white papers is the same as the legal analysis of legal responsibility to provide fire protection. Does the cities, does the fire district, it's there. So there are also creative ways, and we're exploring those creative ways of getting additional revenue. But to be very clear, assessments and taxes, how it is set up is obviously an impacting factor, and how you address growth is very important. And that is exactly what we're trying to address. Good question, Mr. Bull. Next question, please. Saving $2 million annually by not supplementing other retirees out of balance with budgets could pay for more in new fire. Mr. Bush, Bunch, you're correct. That so let me highlight and leave that up there. So the fire district, when I came in 2017 with many members of our organization and board members at the time, there are so many different things that I observed as I came through the ranks of the fire district. Those of you who don't know, I started in Moraga. I was fortunate enough to get hired as a reserve right out of high school. That was my dream organization. That's what I intended I wanted to do. I was positioned well to potentially have an opportunity there to become a career firefighter. I was probably a year or two out from getting done what I needed to do. They strongly recommended I go get additional experience. I asked them how I should do that. They said, hey, you may want to look at East County, the Oakley Knights and Fire Protection District, a volunteer organization, to get some experience, some exposure. And I came out here thinking it would be like a 3 to 5 year thing. And well, 20 plus years later, here I am. The reason I bring this up is that this area is not new to me. This area is not, I fell in love with the community. I saw the district, saw the opportunity for growth, and I actually saw many of our challenges. And I progressed throughout the ranks. I worked as a firefighter, an engineer, a captain. I spent 10 years as an operational battalion chief managing the day-to-day stations. And in 2017, I had the privilege to come in as interim fire chief to test the waters and see if I was a good fit to be able to do this type of work. The reason I give you that history is I saw many system issues. I barbecue and go to church with a lot of people that had many criticisms for the fire district. I heard them, I felt them, I knew them, and I collected them. When I came in 2017 with the support of the fire board, I started working to mine through a laundry list of criticisms, and we're not done. We still got work to do. But on this topic very specifically, this is one of the areas of which I was concerned with. The board was concerned with. We had members and organizations were concerned with, and there was these optics that the amount that we were paying towards pensions was more than all of the agencies within the county, but yet we received an equal benefit, and I never understood. We didn't understand why. And so it has taken 3 years through seeking understanding first, getting consultants to help explain what brought us to the situation we're in. And we found that with the way that the policies or the way that our groups were set up within our pension systems, it had the district at a disadvantage. And I want to be very clear about a couple things. The way of which they were set up, there was, as we can see now, unintended consequences, but I do not think they were done intentionally. I sincerely feel that. But there were unintended consequences on the way of which the groupings were done, the way things were done, because some things weren't taken into consideration. And we identified, the district identified, we identified not only the negative impact, we identified a way to correct it. And we are right now on the eve, no kidding you, the eve, 3 years down the road of trying to kick over this rock and correct it. This is one of the things on the list that I knew we had to address or either explain why we paid such more high pension costs. And right now, tomorrow, we are going to be going in front of the Contra Costa County Employee Retirement Association, Cicera board, and making the request for them to change the policies, and it can save the fire district to the tune of $1.2 million per year by correcting that policy change to balance us and make us equal to other agencies throughout the county. So we found an issue, we provided a solution, and tomorrow we're very eager and somewhat excited for this to be resolved, because this has been something that's been challenged with, that many of us understand. The optics have been horrible, but this is one example of us kicking over every rock. So the point I want to make is, your fire board, your fire chief, we have a strong labor and management relationship. We are kicking over every rock, trying to correct decades of challenges or missed opportunities, from the way that our pensions were set up to the way that we address growth. And I know it's been taking 3 years, and I take what's taking you so long and lack of urgency. These things take some time, but we have corrected the growth issue, and we are on the eve of correcting and making the pension issue correct, which will bring additional revenue in the district. It won't fully fund a station, but it is sure a good chunk of a station. It's in the right direction. So the answer is your point. The number was a little high, but your comment is accurate. Good comment. Thank you. Are the closed stations not worth renovating to save money? Not arguing, honestly asking. No. And that's actually a fair question too. So we'll leave that up there for a sec, because I want to get, that's a multiple piece. I want to hit it. So listen, Adam, is that there's a couple challenges with the stations. So, we had them scattered throughout the jurisdiction historically. We know that we're going to need 9 stations as we continue to build. We have 4 that are constructed, 3 that are occupied. So our occupied stations right now is 1 in Oakley, at Station 53. At O'Hara and Cypress, we have 152 on Balfour and John Muir Parkway, and then 1 in Discovery Bay, which is at Bixler and Point of Timber. We just constructed 1 in the Bethel Island area, which is going to be at Cypress and Bethel Island Road. That's Station 55. It's unoccupied. And if revenue came into the district tomorrow, it'd be staffed. Secondarily is, we're working right now on getting the agreements in place to do design review for another Station 51 in Brentwood, a Grant and Empire behind Pioneer School. And we have the 3 station deficits. So the 3 station deficits today is that Cypress Station, the Station 51 behind Pioneer School, and the downtown shuttered station, Station 54. We have 3 other alternatives for growth that many of the old existing stations, geographically, they're not ideal, because you need to remember that we used to be many different organizations that thought about the organization and their footprint. We are a 250 square mile footprint, and we have to strategically place stations where they need to go. So the first part of the problem statement is, are they in the best locations, in a system approach? What's the order of them, and where they need to go? And many of the stations we are surplusing are being moved. Secondarily, a majority, if not all, the stations that we're shuttering were never built and or intended to be 24/7 operation fire stations. These stations were built in the 50s and 60s. Many of them were brick and mortar septic systems. They were intended to be paid on call, volunteer stations. Many of them have seismic challenges. Many of them have septic challenges. Many of them don't even fit our equipment. The equipment's getting bigger, it's getting larger, the technology is changing. We also have new operational changes in regards to the way that we approach decontamination, filtering of stations, for the contaminants, not only from the apparatus, but our members' gears, and the way that they decon our individuals and our people. And also, we have learned over time about sleeping arrangements, firefighter mental health, physical health, cardiac health, and many of the old stations, well, all of the old stations that we're either surplusing or changing do not fit into that mold. So there's a bigger conversation there, but I want to let you know is that we do, however, if the stations aren't built, we can and have the ability to dual staff. It means put 2 engine companies while we're building a station or working on a station or funding a station. And we have a little bit of capital challenges in regards to revenue long-term when it comes down to existing deficits and capital, but we have options there to be able to address that. Our issue that we have, Adam, is ongoing reoccurring, or use the word sustainable for reoccurring revenue, to be able to pay for staffing. It's not really a capital or brick and mortar and apparatus issue, as it is ongoing, regular, repeating, sustainable, guaranteed revenue to staff. Hopefully I answered that question. Good question. Next question, please. Can you convert a community service district like Consumers FD and assess taxes differently and not being a fire district? Let me try that again. Can you convert a community services district to a CFD like Consumers and assess taxes differently, not being a fire district? So I hope I answered this right, and if I don't, ask it again or contact me offline. So we can there's multiple ways for existing service level deficits that we can address them. And it goes back to the revenue options guide. It's all there for you to see, and the board is considering these. We can do community facility districts. We can do parcel taxes, and or we can do special benefit districts. All three of them work a little bit differently. We're utilizing the mechanism right now of CFDs, community facility districts, to address future growth. We're also doing that one-time impact fee, charge the developers to build the station. So there's fees and assessments to address growth. For existing service level deficits, we are right now exploring and looking at what is called a special benefit district, which is a benefit district. So it would be, the way it would work is that if the board identifies, as we work through all of our alternatives, that they need to do either a 1, a 2, or a 3 station revenue enhancement. So as we explore everything, we know we have a 3-station deficit. So in a perfect world, if we all agreed, we would make a 3-station. We know we need 3 stations. We would have a model to make an ask for 3 stations. My staff and I are working as we explore all these alternatives, because we don't know what happens when the dust will settle. Are we going to have a 1-station deficit, a 2-station deficit, or still a 3-station existing deficit? So what I'm working on right now is building those assessments and working with engineers to be able to have what's called an engineer's report, to be able to do a benefit assessment district for an added benefit to the system of adding 1 station, 2 station, or 3 stations. And most recently, we're doing a 3-station buildup. So if we know we have a 3-station deficit and we want to do a 3-station buildup, it could be 1 station in 1 year, a station 2 years later, and another station 2 years after that. And so we know in 5 years we get the 3 stations that we need. And we also know we can use grants or one-time monies in the in-between years to increase service levels along the way. It's another consideration for the board. So again, in November, I don't know exactly where we're going to be in regards to the need, but I want to make sure all the tools and resources are available to the fire board in regards to 1, 2, and or 3-station or 3-station tiered up approach, so they can make a decision to address the deficits that we have. So I believe that Consumers Elk Grove, they have a special benefit district. If not, they have an assessment. And but a CFD, we are working for future development. So there's some complexities there. In regards to, and I don't want to get into it because I know it can be confusing, but I think it's important to know, is a parcel tax is, for example, if we needed $1,000 and there were 10 parcels in our jurisdiction. This is an example. It's not reality. If we needed $1,000 and there's 10 parcels, it would be $100 per parcel to get us to where it is that we need to go to get to 1,000. So what a parcel tax does is it equally divides. We have 44,600 parcels in our jurisdiction, and a parcel tax would take the needed amount for the added benefit to the system and equally distributes it to the same dollar amount to every single parcel throughout the jurisdiction. One thing that we've been challenged with the citizens is saying that they want something that's fair and equitable. They want it to be balanced. They want everybody to chip in. What they mean by everybody is they don't want it to be put solely on just the residential property owners. And residential property owners are 87% of the 44,600 parcels that we have within our jurisdiction. What a benefit assessment does is that we look at those 44,000 parcels and we define the benefit on every single one. And the amount that you pay is dependent upon the benefit that you receive. So if you have a 4,000 square foot home that is sprinklered or non-sprinklered and next to a fire hydrant or not a fire hydrant, if you live in a 1,000 square foot home, on a parcel tax, you both have the same assessment. But on a benefit assessment, the larger home is going to be charged at a higher rate than the lower rate because they don't have the same amount of benefit. In addition, on a benefit assessment, there's nobody exempt. That means that all special districts, the city's properties, the county's properties, everyone pays in to it. And so I want to be clear that when we're looking at the assessment of a benefit assessment, everyone has to chip in to be able to make it happen. And the benefit that you receive, the greater benefit that you pay, the less benefit you receive. So if you own just dirt, and if it's just plain dirt and you're not farming on it, if you're farming on it, it's a little bit more. To if you have a home on it, it's even more, right? It's incremental. It balances it out accordingly. And that is one thing that we've been told. In addition, to conclude this answer is, I've been criticized, or the district's been criticized, or the board is like, don't put it on the residential properties back. You need to come up with multiple means of mechanisms. Look, when I came into the fire district, we had one. It was that low percent, that 8% of property taxes. In 2017, that was the mean of our revenues, and that's what we have. Today, now fast forwarding 3 years, we have not only the tax rate area revenues of the 8%, we also have a cost recovery program that fully funds the Fire Prevention Bureau. People that use the system pay for the system. It's not profit generating, but it's cost neutralizing. We are right now updating and implementing the impact fees that have not been done since either the 80s or 2000s. They're inadequate. They're lower than what they need to be, and we're updating them right now. That's a third mechanism. We're also, number 4, in September, no later than October, September, doing the CFD, the community facility districts, are all future growth. So we have multiple means of revenue. And the last piece to address our existing service level deficits we're working on right now. And a benefit assessment district, again, would add the burden to everybody. Cities pays, counties pay, special districts pay, businesses pay, residents pay. Any property, if you own a parcel, you pay. And it's put in there. And I believe it's a fair and equitable way to adding benefit of 1, 2, and or 3 stations. So stay tuned, ask more questions. It is complex. I've been working on this for 3 years and I have an understanding of it, but it's important to know. So great question. Hopefully that answered it. Next question, please. No. So is there any money allotted from the lottery? If not, can there be? Don't know where the funds go. So that is a fair question. No, the fire district does not receive anything from the lottery. And I think if you were to go, and I'd work with you offline because I think it's an answering question, the answer is no. But if you were going to the lottery website, you will look where it does go. I know that the revenues are supposed to go to education. I've heard things of recent that there may be some challenges with that, but my understanding is there's a lot of to go to education and many other sources. But there is not any money that comes in the fire district from the lottery. It's also important to note that people really recommend us getting money from either other agencies or other entities, and when mechanisms are built through assessments, taxes, fees, whatever it may be, legally by law, many revenues are called restricted. They're not just general fund monies. General fund monies can be used in a non-specific way. They can be used however you want to. It's a non-issue. Cities, the county, the fire district, those impact fees I referenced to you is that we collect from developers can only be used to build stations and buy apparatus. We cannot use them to pay for ongoing operations. We just can't. The laws and the statutes do. It's called restricted money. So when you look at any entity, any public safety agency, any government agency, it's important to understand that even though they have X amount of revenue a year, you have to look and see what's restricted versus non-restricted. How can it be used and not being used? And that's important for us too. And so the point I'm trying to make is there are probably bills and things that are put in place that very much guarded how funds would and would not be used, and they very specifically point to where they are. So this is not only a lottery question, but I challenge all of us to really seek understanding of what's restricted money, what's non-restricted money, what can be used elsewhere or not be used elsewhere. If it is used elsewhere, what does it take to pull it back from elsewhere? Is it just a matter of politics or a change? Is it just a stroke of a pen and a resolution, or is it ironclad where it's guaranteed to go to another agency? All those things need to be looked at. Those are a lot of challenges that we go through. So no lottery money. I wish we did, but we don't. The next question, please. Don't we need to fire aircraft of our own with all the dry areas and surrounding populated areas? That's a fair question. And it's a very expensive operation. So this is what's good to know about fire aircraft. And I'm also going to put this into specialized. I'm going to rephrase this and forgive me, but I think I will answer your question. Is that, look, fire aircraft, fire boats, and specialized equipment, we as East Contra Costa Fire, with having 3 fire stations and we're short 6, we can't even do well we do 90% of the time. And that's just running to vehicle accidents, structure fires, residential house fires, and medical aids due to the lack of resources. When I came in 2017 with the support of the board and working hand in hand again we have a very strong and good labor management relationship to work through our challenging issues, not only operationally, but the health and welfare of our members. I challenged all of us to live within our means. And right now, administratively, financially, 3 stations we can do it on a reoccurring basis. It's sustainable. Operationally, we're getting our rears handed to us. We're getting overrun. We're finding that 25% of the calls we get dispatched, we do not make it to. Either because we're unavailable or we respond, and because of the time and distance to get there, we get canceled. And so if we cannot do our baseline well, I, as the fire chief, cannot endorse investing any of our time, energy, and money in specialized operations. I would love to have a full fleet of boats to be able to maintain marine protection. We have 100 miles of waterways that surrounds our district. It is a tremendous investment to train people. It is a dangerous operation, all-weather operation. Confined space rescue, trench rescue, hazardous materials, air operations, as I said, fire boats, aerial trucks, which is anything to get above 3 stories. You'll find fire engines. They have ladders on them, not a big ladder on top. That's called a fire truck. Fire engines don't have the ladder on top, which is a truck. That's a specialized piece of equipment. So we do, however, because we do not have these capabilities, we have to lean upon other agencies that do. And we are part of the statewide mutual aid system, but the challenge with that system is those resources are far away and we're not guaranteed them. So because we ask for them, if I ask for a fireboat, we'll get it from Contra Costa County Fire because we had a fireboat at one time and they are staffing it and they'll send it to us, but the time and distance is a challenge. We also have cooperators and people across over in the Rio Vista, Isleton area that we can lean onto. But for trucks, for example, if we call for a truck and those agencies are using the trucks, if they can't come from Pittsburgh, they may have to come from Concord, Walnut Creek. That's a long way away. We know what it's like driving from Concord or Walnut Creek 3 o'clock in the afternoon on any given day. And even if it's a Saturday morning, we know how long it takes. We need those resources at home. And so we also, for air resources, for fire attack, we work with not only CAL FIRE, we work with East Bay Regional Park, we work with Contra Costa County Fire, and we do have air support and access to them, but we have to be able to justify property and or life risk, to be able to utilize those resources from time to time. And it comes with the distance. So we're well far off from being able to do what we can do 90% of the time well. And specialized operations are on our radar. They are right now not our priority, so we can't do the 90% of the stuff well. Hope that makes sense. Next question, please. How much are water carriers cost on average? So I believe, so let's get a little terminology so I'm clear. So we have, again, fire engines. Those are primarily what you see that do residential structure fires. They go to vehicle accidents. They run the medicals. Those are what we call our type 1 structural firefighting engines. Those cost about $1 million. And they last for 10 plus years. We run them hard. And the technology on them, how we equip them, it is the baseline of our operations and how we operate and we rule. We carry all of our equipment. It's a garage on wheels. That's where we carry our water. Okay, our engines carry between 500 and 750 gallons of water on those. So that's a type 1 engine. We also have an off-road unit, a wildland unit. We call that a type 3 piece of equipment. It's a 4-wheel drive unit that goes off-road, 500 gallons of water. a company of tools to be able to handle vegetation type fires. And those can cost us anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000. The water carriers we call water tenders. And water tenders, they carry 3,000 gallons of water. And we have in our jurisdiction, the 250 square miles we have, a large majority of our area in the unincorporated areas is non-hydrant, which means we don't have any hydrants out there. There are even some areas within Brentwood and Oakley that don't have fire hydrants. So our members have to operationally be prepared every time a call comes in. And this is why institutional knowledge and being experienced in an organization and knowing our 250 square miles where we operate is the captains have to make a judgment call. And when they get dispatched to an incident, they have to say, is there hydrants, is there no hydrants? Does it require me to take a type 1, a structural firefighting engine, or a water tender? I'm sorry, or a type 3, a wildland or a structural firefighting engine. And then is there hydrants or not? And if there's not hydrants, the captain chooses the engine. One of the members hops in the water tender and they roll what we call tandem together. And so the equipment is the baseline of what we do. Our members are the ones that operate it and utilize it, and we bring water with us, and a lot of areas don't have water. So we have a capital and equipment replacement plan. We do 5-year leases to buy new equipment, replace our equipment every 10 years. But I want to be very clear, our equipment is not the challenge. The challenge we have right now is ongoing, reoccurring. We use the word sustainable revenue to be able to pay for the personnel and the staffing. And all agencies, just to be clear, throughout California and throughout the great nation, when it comes down to our finances and our budget, 70 to 85%, depending upon the agency, goes to personnel. Because personnel are our service. They're the tip of the spear. They're what we do. That's what we invest to, and that's who we want to be here. They provide the service. And so I just want to be clear, that's the cost of equipment, on average. And that's how we use our equipment on average. But our challenge isn't capital. Building stations, buying equipment. It's ongoing, reoccurring revenue to pay the members to answer the call every day. Great question. Next question, please. Thank you, Mr. Bolton. Thank you. Thank you. So it looks like we're working towards satisfying all questions. When I start seeing these come up on the screen, it means that we've answered everyone's questions. Please continue to share this information and continue to engage and communicate. I know there's a lot of misinformation out in the fire district. I think that people think there's an ask on the table right now. This is very much education. There's town hall meetings coming up. They're going to scroll the town hall meetings, the Facebook Live events coming up. And I'm going to conclude and let you folks know, and those that have heard it, please forgive me, but those of you who haven't, this is very important, I want to remind everyone my responsibility as your fire chief. Again, Brentwood, Oakley, Knights, and Bethel Island, Discovery Bay, Byron, Marsh Creek, Morgan Territory. If you're one of the 128,000 people that live here, or of the 155,000 that work here, I am your fire chief. And that's why I put my information out there. So I want you to have access to me. My job, though, I work for the voice of the fire board. The fire board has 2 employees, myself and the district's legal counsel. All other 47 members of the organization are my responsibility to hire, promote, discipline, the whole kit and caboodle. It's all my responsibility. I report to the voice of the fire board. I don't answer to 5 individual people with a voice. The 3 people say that's who I report to. And so it's important you understand my positioning here. Is I do not make the policy decisions on the board level decisions. I do not choose if we make an ask to the residents. I do not decide what the ask is. That's not my responsibility, and I need to stay in my lane and do my job. And so this is my job. My job is to run the organization that I have the privilege to run, and it's this one right now. This is where I choose to be. This is where I want to be. And I have the opportunity and privilege to work here. I have revenue to be able to run the organization I can with the revenue that I have. And we are doing that. We are now sustainable. We can recurring to do what we do with the revenues we have. And we're running it. Wherever I work as the fire chief, if I see service level deficits and we are not meeting the mark and we are having a substandard service, it is my responsibility to highlight it, bring it to the attention of the fire board, educate it to those we provide services to define the problem statement. But No good fire chief is just going to define a problem if they don't provide also solutions and educate on the problem statement and the options to be able to address. We're running the organization. We definitely have a service level challenge, and we broke the challenge into two. It's not just one problem. It's a growth challenge and existing service level challenge. That's the problem statement. Problem number two, we're on implementation phase. We've corrected the existing service level. We still have a challenge. And so right now, the staff of the fire district, in cooperation with the board, and again, with our agency partners, labor management, everyone, we are exploring many different things. We're exploring the feasibility of consolidation. We've done before. The conversation's stale. We're going to do it again. We're talking to the land use agency, seeing if there's opportunities there. We're looking at county initiatives. We're looking at state propositions. And we're waiting till November, and we're going to work really hard to be able to do and figure out where this stuff lands. And we're going to be able to assess the feasibility of it. Once we have done that, I'm also working, as I stated, on preparing the additional models to do a 1, 2, or 3 station model and present it to the board. You see, my job was, again, to run the organization, identify the problem, educate people to the problem, provide recommended solutions in front of my bosses and the board. And when they start making those hard discussions, it's imperative that those that we serve understand what's going on. And the board has to work through and make hard decisions on, do we make an ask? Do we not make an ask? What's the service levels we want? What do we want to do? And they do that in public forum. It's a very hard conversation to have. And in November, they're going to start having that conversation. I presented the information. It's for them to choose what they do. Now, if they choose to go out to the community and make an ask, one of two things is going to happen: is it will pass or it will fail. If it passes, it is my job to implement the plan as described by the ask to the manner of which was presented, that we put in front of them as a recommendation. And I have full confidence we have not only the right people in the room to do it, but we have the plan in place to execute it, and we could be a model organization. We just need the revenue when it would arrive. Or if it doesn't pass, it is my job to continue to run the organization in the manner of which with the revenues that we have. So right now we are in the education, inform, fact-finding, presenting the facts to the fire board to make decisions. I have no control over the next steps or the end result of where we land. And so I just want folks to know that my sincere intent is doing my due diligence to serve you well as a fire chief. And I don't want anyone to ever be surprised on how we arrived here. I don't want anyone to know where we came from, what it is, and where we're going. I want you to be educated and informed as if you're sitting right next to me for when these hard decisions come up, so you can make an educated and informed decision and nobody's surprised. So my call to action to all of you is this. I'm criticized every day that we have no reach. I'm challenged every day that people do not know who their fire district is. I'm challenged every day that people do not know they have service level deficits. People don't know every day what the district's doing trying to correct them. A lot of folks don't know why we keep talking about taxes. I'm here trying to educate and inform. I need your help. So I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. I don't take, again, your time for granted. I'm honored to serve you. We have a huge problem on our hands, but together as a community, we can resolve it. So continue to lean on me as I'm going to continue to ask how I can better serve you. I really thank you for watching. Again, this is going to be archived, and this is going to be available online, so you can share it as we continue to move forward. And I just really want to thank you for continuing to watch, continue to support, continue to be educated, and be actively engaged in your fire district. So thank you for being here tonight. Look forward to the next opportunity to meet with you, and please be safe.